Alright, welcome back guys. I know it's been a while since we've had one of these videos, but tonight we're going to talk about adding and subtracting decimals. Now this is something that you guys learned way back in elementary school, not even in 5th grade, probably 3rd or 4th grade. And I know a lot of you guys are going to really enjoy this because it's fairly simple to remember. When we add and subtract decimals, we need to line up the decimal point, and then we add and subtract normally just as we would with any regular addition or subtraction problem. So before we really do some practice with this, I want to make sure that we understand why. So I've drawn an image here, well, I've actually taken a snapshot of a number here where we've labeled out each of the place values. So we've got the normal ones digit in front of the decimal point. We've got our tens here, our hundreds, and then to the left of the decimal point, these are representing parts that are smaller than a whole. Those are our tenths, our hundredths, our thousandths, 10,000ths, and 100,000ths. Okay, so in other words, we would say that we've got 3 tenths. We could say we've got 32 hundredths, 328 thousandths, 3,281 10,000ths, or 32,815 100,000ths. Now, if I want to add decimals, then it's going to be the same principle as if we were adding regular whole numbers, right? If you wanted to add, let's say, the number 72 plus the number 6, well, you wouldn't line it up to add it like this, because if you did that, you would essentially be adding 60. And that's not what we want. We want to add 6. So we line it up according to the digits, right? This is our ones. And this is also in the ones place. Whereas the 7 falls in the tens. So we're going to line up 72 and 6 before we add it together. It's going to be the same principle when we add and subtract decimals. We need to line up our decimal places where they are. If you think about it, really what you were doing originally was you were lining up the decimal places. 72 is the same as saying 72 and 0 tenths. 6 is the same as saying 6 and 0 tenths as well. So really, there was a decimal place there all along. You just didn't need to use it because you didn't have any tenths or hundredths places. So let's try an example now where we can add and subtract decimals in a regular scenario. All right, so here we've got 3 and 305 thousandths and 1 and 7 tenths. So if we add these together, remember we need to line up our decimal places. So I'm going to do 3.305. This is 1.7. Notice my decimal places are one above the other. And then I'll just put some zeros here in the hundredths and thousandths places after that 7 to hold the place. And now I can add just like normal. 5 plus 0 is 5. 0 plus 0 is 0. 3 plus 7 is 10. I'm going to carry that 1 over. 1 plus 3 plus 1 is 5. And so I'm left with 5 and 5 thousandths. Over here, I've got 8 and 5 tenths, and I'm subtracting 96 hundredths. Again, I'm going to line up the decimal places. 8.5 minus 0.96. To hold this place value up here, I'm going to put a 0 in, and again, I'm going to subtract like normal. So I'm going to borrow from the 5 to make this a 10. 10 minus 6 becomes 4. That 5 became a 4, except now I'm going to need to borrow from the 8. 8 will become 7. This becomes 14. 14 minus 9 is 5. And then I've got 7 minus 0, which is 7. One of my students last year pointed out a good example, and so I wanted to note for you guys that if you look at the way the decimal places are lined up, they kind of look like buttons on a shirt. So if it helps you to remember them, line up your decimal places like buttons on a shirt. All right, let's try a real-world example. A swimmer is in a 100-meter race. She swims the first half of the race in 32.34 seconds and the last half of the race in 34.83 seconds. How long did it take her to swim the whole race? So notice here, first of all, we've got this number up here that says 100-meter race. But the question that we're trying to answer says how long. We're looking for a time. So this 100 meters is irrelevant to the problem, okay? They're just telling us the length of the race, but the information that we actually need is here. 32.34 seconds for the first half, the second half in 34.83 seconds. So all we're going to need to do to figure out the length of the whole race is to simply add them up. 32.34 plus 34.83. Add those together. Just like normal, and we get 67.17 seconds. All right, and our last problem for tonight says a bee colony produced 0.74 pounds of honey, but bears ate 0.2 pounds of it. How much honey remains? So we've got 0.74 pounds, but bears are eating 0.2 pounds of it, so we're losing 0.2 pounds, which means that we're going to have a subtraction problem here. So 0.74 minus 0.20. Notice that 0 is there as a placeholder. Then I'm going to do 4 minus 0s, 4, 7 minus 2 is 5, and I'm left with 0.54 pounds left over. All right, now that concludes our video for tonight. What I'd like you guys to do is take some time, if you can, to work on the IXL problems on adding and subtracting decimals. Remember to watch this video over and over as you're doing the practice problems so that you can make sure that you're really understanding this concept. And if you're struggling still with a video, then that's when you should send me an email and ask me questions. All right, have a great night, guys.